Hello and welcome back to the MMA Split Picks show for the upcoming UFC card, headlined by Marlon Cheetah Vera taking on former interim title challenger Corey the Sandman Sandhagen. On a card, Josh, that is certainly filled with some interesting names, some good fights, I think. Couple of old timers, couple of rising prospects. I am, of course, Matt, joined by host and producer Josh, who you can't see as we are audio only today.
Yeah. If you're wondering where did all the good-looking people go, hit that subscribe button. We'll be back in your face soon enough.
We were in the studio yesterday, but we ended up spending so much bloody time recording the news and the recap of 286 that we had to push this to today, and it meant we couldn't be in the same place. So just audio today. But don't get you down. We're still going to be bringing you lots of energy, discussing everything that's happening, giving our picks and predictions. We still need to collate the exact total of this season, but I went just ahead on UFC 286's picks and predictions. I ended up getting one more correct than Josh due to the other fight that we had different being a split decision.
Yeah, to be honest, I was one fence grab away from going down 2 points there. That could have been ugly.
Points was certainly a story. I think I finished 10 and 15. I imagine you finished 9 and 15, if I'm not mistaken.
It would have been about that, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of fights last week, and a lot better last week than we'd done the week before, where I think we were under 500 one of the first times ever.
Oh yeah, that was.
You might have been just over. I think you were just over 500. I was just under, but or vice versa. But it wasn't a good performance. This is a hard week to call, man. I'm going to be honest. I'm looking at some of these. A lot of fun fights. Always fun when Nate Landwehr's on the card, although he's stepping in short notice to fight Austin Lingo, who I think was meant to fight Ricardo Ramos a couple of weeks ago.
Oof, you're asking the wrong guy at the wrong time. Or
it was
the wrong guy at the right time because we already hit record. It's happening. Sure. I'm going to thoughtlessly double down on it. Absolutely, it was.
Return of Andrea Lee taking on Macy Barber. Alex Perez versus Manel Karp. I mean, I can't believe that's not the co-main event. Lots of fun. Lots of fun to be had. We're going to start with the main event.
No joke,
Josh.
This is a good fucking card. Like, this is a really good card.
I do have one question, though. This isn't an Apex card. I know that this is... Do we know where this fight's happening? So this is a Fight Night card, but I will confess I have not looked up its location.
I believe it's in San Antonio, Texas. But again, you're asking the wrong guy at the right time because we already hit record.
This is true. Sometimes, do you ever wonder how much we pre-prep the show? No, this is live, baby. We just roll.
Hey, we
got
San lives,
Antonio,
bro.
Texas.
I came here straight from work. We're just trying to do
shooting from the
justice.
Hip. Shooting from the hip.
Oh hell yeah, Sam Raimi style. Spider-Man 2, baby.
Yeah, and it is San Antonio, Texas.
Get out of town. I pulled that right.
You got that right. You got that right. You got that right. It was. I don't get a point in the back of your brain, mate. It was in the back of your brain. You just pulled it out at the right moment.
I'm having one of those days.
Definitely, you're going to want to not go to the judges when it goes to Texas. We have had some very, very dodgy decisions in Texas, but that's neither here nor there. Marlon Vera, Corey Sandhagen. I've got a feeling the judges might not be necessary for this one, and that might be a hint as to who I'm picking. But Josh, I'd love to hear your thoughts first on how you think this main event matches up.
It's one of those weeks where I don't want to make picks. I just want to watch the fights. This is such a great fight, and it's just on paper, I just think Sandhagen should be able to edge this, but it's Cheeto. So I hate picking against Cheeto. I can't believe I'm going to do it, but I'm pretty sure that you're insinuating you might go with Marlon Vera there. I'm going to go Sandhagen. Oh, god damn though. I just pray for a war. I just want to see blood.
Let's delve into the technicals a little bit. I think even though we saw some attempts at grappling from Sandhagen to mix it up in his last fight against Song, I do feel this is going to be a striking matchup. But two completely different types of strikers. I mean, you've got Sandhagen, who plays around with form, breaks the rules, switches stances, is super creative, is so good with that lead hand, throws nasty combinations to the body, likes changing the angles, will move around the cage, will be aggressive at moments, will throw so many different problems at you. And then you've got Chito Vera, where we're not really going to see stance changes. We're not going to see him bouncing around. He's going to be in that boxer Muay Thai stance, putting pressure on, soaking up hits on the guard, and looking to find his reads and his counters and hit you harder than the 5 times that you've hit him. And Chito, I think, is going to be the guy that's looking to end this fight. I am picking Chito, but I am expecting him pretty much like every Chito fight we've seen for the last, 6 fights. I think he's going to be behind on the scorecards. I think he's going to be losing the rounds until he lands something or finishes his fight and makes a difference. But the guy is impossible to hurt, man. And I feel like he's just that type of fighter where when you're a volume striker like Sandhagen that likes to throw all these different problems at you, obviously you can overload a lot of guys. But for Chito, who's so good at staying safe, keeping things on the guard, not eating any punch too hard, I just think you're giving him more opportunities to make reads and land hard counters. I think with Chito, you've actually got to be a little bit more strategic about how you set your shots up. And I feel with Sandhagen's style, there's just going to be one moment where he throws a combination that's a little too long, something he's already thrown in the fight that he gives a tell for. And all it takes is for one solid left hook, one of those high kicks hid behind the cross that Chito likes to throw like he did against, oh God, what's his name? Dominic Cruz. And Chito's got a variety of weapons as well. He can knock you out with that front kick up the middle, the roundhouse. He can damage you with hooks. He can hit you with uppercuts. He can chop the legs down. I'm going Chito here, but
he tends to do it late in fights, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. Where you said you think he's going to be doing a come from behind finish. He will struggle.
Well, he's got it in my mind.
With rangy strikers. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I think if he doesn't get Sandhagen out of there, unless we see a Rob Font where he's like badly rocked him in at least 3 of the rounds, and that rocking negates the strike differential in favor of Corey Sandhagen. Like, I think it's a Sandhagen decision or it's a Chito Vera knockout. I'm just going with the Chito Vera.
No, I think that's a reasonable assessment. The thing is, Chito does struggle with... Not struggle, everyone struggles with rangy strikers. Everyone struggles with more technical strikers. Chito's no different. If Chito can't get clean calf kicks in early and can't get some body work in to try and sort of balance it out and get Sandhagen a little sloppier, a little more open towards the end of the fight, I think he's really going to have issues. The first 2 rounds for me are key for Chito. Whether or not he wins those rounds, he needs to put that groundwork in that's going to enable him to try and kind of catch Sandhagen. It's not like Sandhagen's elusive in the same way that like an O'Malley is, and obviously we're not really going to bring in the Chito O'Malley fight as a reference point because it was kind of a weird situation, but he's not evasive in the same way. Like you said, he's a volume striker and he is a very creative striker, and he will be able to cut different angles, and the way that he can get his kicks and his knees in as well as his long strikes with his hands, it's just so important for me that Chito can keep it competitive in those first 2 rounds. Otherwise, it's going to take a real moment of magic. And you can't count on that against a guy like Sandhagen. He's put the rounds in against the world's best. And whether he wins or loses, he's put in some really great performances and learnt a lot. Both guys have phenomenal attitudes, real drive, real passion for the sport. It's a fight that I just need to see so bad, and I'm really fucking excited for this one. I don't want to make a pick, but I have to make a pick. It's easier knowing that you're going Chito. You let that away with a knockout comment. So yeah, it's Sandhagen. I've written it down. I'm going to commit with that. But I could care less who wins. I win. We win. The world wins.
This is fight of the year potential. if things go a certain way. I mean, I'm thinking, I mean, the similarities between the way that Cheeto fights and PT Yarn, the how good that PT Yarn Sandhagen fight was. My only, I don't know if Sandhagen is going to be able to hit Cheeto with something hard enough using his hands that's going to get him the respect of a little bit of distance. I
I
think
don't
if
think he's
Cheeto
going to
can put the
need that
pressure on,
though. I I just don't think he's going to need to ever hit Cheeto hard. I think, to be honest, his best way to stun Cheeto is probably going to be body kicks. But he doesn't need to take that risk. He doesn't need to overreach. He doesn't need to load up. He doesn't need to take that extra split second just to get a little bit more torque on a shot. Just needs to do a bit more damage, stay a little busier, frustrate him, and not get tired before the championship rounds or the main event rounds. Rounds 4 and 5, it's very important to not get caught. If Cheeto can't slow him down in the first two, I really think it's going to take a bit of a fluke or a real moment of magic from Cheeto to win this fight. If Sandhagen can avoid getting chewed up in the first 2 rounds and win at least one of them, I think he just outpoints him. As long as he doesn't get tired, it's his fight to lose.
that's definitely a reasonable point to take. It's a hard fight to call. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be an awesome main event that I'm going to have to try and watch while I'm skiing in Val d'Isere, man. It's going to be easier said than done. So I might have to try and switch my phone off and watch it Sunday at some point on Fight Pass. But we'll see how I get on with that one.
Boo-hoo, the world has a lot of sympathy
comb.
for you and your skiing holiday.
I know. I don't like skiing. I'm just going for family. But I know it's a fucking talk about first world problems. Let's talk about this co-main event. Co-main event, Holly Holm. She's back. She's still doing the thing at 41 years old, taking on Yana Kunitskaya, who I'm assuming has had the baby by now. If she hasn't had the baby by now, then this is definitely changing my opinions on the fight and whether she should be fighting.
I mean,
but this is kind of a co-main event.
What's the word? Gesticulating? No, if she's growing a fetus for that long, she's not human. I don't know the word for when a mammal carries a young.
Gestating.
I got some of the letters right. You're on the right track. She has had the kid. Also had the wedding. Yana Santos now. I preferred it when Joanne Calderwood did it and just kept some of the word. Made it as a simple transition. Got
so what, you would want her to marry a guy whose name was Kaya? Yannick just marries, I don't know, Ben Kaya. She just becomes Yannick Kaya. Yana Kaya.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yana Kaya is a cool name.
Yeah.
Talking about the fight itself.
Today. This is a fun one, man. This is the first fight since the baby, though. I'm pretty sure that's correct.
I've got questions.
I've got questions about
Holly Holm after the loss to... Yeah. Who's... I feel this is going to come down to who's the most mentally switched on and 100%, close to their normal 100%. Is Holly Holm still doing the thing at 41? You see pictures of her on Instagram and you think, well, that's not a lady that's not in shape. But I did think that I thought there was a hand speed. I thought there was a natural understanding of timing that didn't seem to be present in a fight with Ketlen Vieira. But is that because she's fighting Ketlen Vieira, who's fucking huge and such a difficult physical specimen to deal with at 135? But Yana Kunitskaya beat Ketlen Vieira, and she's going to grapple, and she's younger, and even having the baby, I'm going home. I'm going Holly Holm. And the only reason I'm doing that is that Holly Holm at her absolute best is you can't even put her in the same league. Yana at no point in her career has been anywhere close to the best that we've seen from Holly Holm. And to be honest, even Holly Holm on an average day is still probably top 3, top 4 in this division. You know, they're talking about her fighting, about Irina Aldana fighting for the title. It wasn't that long ago that Holly Holm, sweet Aldana. 5-0 on the judges' scorecards. So yeah, I've got to go home, but I don't feel good about this. And when somebody's 40 at 135, it's like, when are we just going to see that moment where it's you're old, you're done, it's
Yep,
over?
and for
Is it this
someone that
fight?
is, quite a powerful striker, age is not your friend necessarily because you have to set up those shots quite effectively. If we want to do the MMA math as well, Aldana is Santos's last fight, and obviously Aldana won that one. So I'm going home as well. I was kind of hoping you go Santos, but you raise an interesting point there. Who has the stronger mentality? You just can't really pick against home when it comes to
Against home.
just who's got the spirit for it.
She's
She is the epitome of
she's in the
fighting.
boxing Hall of Fame. I mean, her entire MMA career is something that happened after she already had one of the all-time great female boxing careers. I mean, this lady's mentality, like, it's not even a question at that point. She could end her career, or after she retires, we might not be waiting that long. We see her in two different halls of fame. That's crazy.
I think that's inevitable.
Well, you know what? I've thought about this, but she's still only like maybe number 5 on women that I'd put in the UFC Hall of Fame right now. That's a conversation for a different podcast because obviously this isn't the podcast. This is the pick show. But no, I'm picking home.
I mean, you were already into MMA when she knocked out Rousey, right?
The
Or was that
thing
a little
is that
before?
so I had like I had what I call my Anderson Silva phase, and then there was a big gap where I really wasn't watching too much MMA. I had friends that watched it. My dad was doing a sports radio show at the time where they had a big MMA section. So Ronda's rise was something that was talked about a lot. But from Anderson Silva breaking his leg through, and really, I would say I was more of an Anderson Silva fan, plus a few fights that I watched back after playing like UFC 3 Undisputed or something like that. And you used to be able to watch some of the old fights or the knockouts from real old fights on the game. But then there was a good period. It's like it's not until after Conor McGregor kind of wasn't fighting that much in MMA before, sort of between him winning the lightweight belt and then eventually fighting Khabib. That's when I sort of really became a fan.
So
So by that point, Nunes is already the champ. Ronda Rousey, I was aware of, but kind of knew that from the point where she was being talked about to the point that I was going in, she'd kind of fallen off the map and wasn't doing the thing anymore.
yeah, so I mean, a lot of people will say that Nunes is the reason Rousey fell off the map, but you have to understand the air of invincibility around her, like the way they try to hype up Betch Kahea as this dangerous striker that was going to be like a real threat to Rousey, and then Rousey just like knocks her out. The home fight, it was like a foregone conclusion. It kind of had the same mystique around it that Nunes Pena won did, after the fact. It was a very important kind of watershed moment in women's bantamweight, and it was more than a passing of the flame. It was like a what the
I,
fuck kind of moment. So I think
I,
home and everything else she's done, all the other championship fights, all the great fights she's had, I really think she'll wind up in the Hall of Fame.
I think she gets there eventually. I just think for me the issue is you have to put Nunes in before you put home. I think you have to put Ronda Rousey
Fine
in
with that.
before you put home. I think I think
Is Rousey not
Shevchenko,
already in?
Yan, I don't think so. I don't think they've put any women in yet.
Interesting. I think that's an inevitability as well. So
That's for me. That's the first. I think the order has to be Rousey, Nunes, Shevchenko. I would then go Jacek
well,
because of what she did for that division
yeah,
specifically and how deep that division was. The fight of the year with Weili Zhang. The Rose second fight was an absolute war. Having the title shot a weight class up. Holly Holm would be my number 5, and she goes in before Misha Tate, which only I say because Misha, if it was an MMA Hall of Fame, I think Misha goes in before
oh
Holly
yeah,
Holm.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But obviously, a big thing with Misha was she was the Strike Force and then also the UFC champion. But, she didn't be, like you say, she didn't beat this dominant champ to do it. She already lost a title shot
Yeah,
beforehand. Holmes
Misha
obviously
may
got
end
the
up in
title
there.
shots at
She's not
145.
inevitable.
Also, I mean, Holly Holm had two 145 title shots.
Yep.
So we're across two weight classes. She has to be in, but I think she comes in fifth on the list for me personally, only because Nunes, Shevchenko, Jędrzejczyk, Rousey. I mean, I put Holly Holm in before I put Rose though, and that's a tough one for me to call. And Rose is probably number 6, but
That's fair. We're getting a little derailed here,
we are, aren't
and
we?
I know you want to
So
keep it
let's
tight
talk.
tonight. So
Let's talk about Lingo. Let's talk about Austin Lingo, who was meant to be fighting Ricardo Ramos a couple of weeks ago. Ramos got injured. He couldn't find a replacement for that night, so now they've got Nate Landwehr stepping in on a couple of weeks' notice. Pushed the fight a couple of weeks back. I love Nate. I love Nate the Train, but he's as game as anybody. But he's one of these people that prides himself on getting hit and being in these kind of scrappy wars. I don't think Austin Lingo's about that, man. I think Austin Lingo's looking to get in there, put a performance in, keep his record looking very nice, and start moving up towards some ranked fights. I think this is I think this is Austin Lingo's to lose. Not to say that he, until you beat one of these kind of tough, doesn't go away easy, up for scrap brawlers, it's not an easy fight, but I do feel Austin Lingo's the better fighter. I'm picking Austin.
good. I'm glad we got the separation here. Nate Landwehr is a bang average fighter with the heart of a lion. And to be honest, the fights he's lost have, been kind of impressive performances against him. I just feel like it takes a lot to beat Landwehr. And even though he's the fighter coming in on short notice, Lingo was kind of planning on peaking 2 weeks ago. That's also not fantastic. I'm going to go with the Train. Nate the Train Landwehr. Close fight though.
Different
and
styles,
another
very
good
different
fight.
It's a good fight. Very different fight from Ricardo Ramos, so maybe the style change up throws him off, but we will see. Then down to women's flyweight. This one could have some interesting effects. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not aspirations. It's
Implications.
It could have some implications. Thank you.
Wait, gesticulations.
How the top. I'll stick with implications.
It's a callback.
For how this division starts to look at the top. Obviously, we got a new champion now. There are some hungry contenders ahead of these two women, but Macy Barber, at a time, was the big prospect of flyweight. Andrea Lee is always a tough fight. Good Muay Thai. She can really fuck girls up on a night. Look at what she did to Cynthia Calvillo as proof. But she can also get dominant control, particularly by bigger fighters. I'm picking Macy, that we haven't seen in a while. You have to assume has improved since the last fight, and as a very physical wrestling style with some powerful hands. I think this is Macy Barber's.
Yeah, snap. Difficult one for me to call, but I'm going to go with Macy. You're right, she's a prospect. Some might say the future. Tied that in nicely.
How I feel about that. You shouldn't have a nickname like the Future if your last name can also sound like a job title. Like,
yeah,
if your last name was Blacksmith or Baker or Potter, you know what I mean? It doesn't sound like you're saying you're the future of MMA. It sounds like you're saying that your future is going to be in hairdressing and men's hairdressing, which is weird as a girl.
I mean,
that's my rant. That's my rant.
You make a good point. We should bring Name and Fortune back. There's some money to be made there. We left that on the table.
And the new fans won't know about Name and Fortune. We need to bring that back in on the next podcast. Depending on when we do the recap for this fight, we can discuss it. Right, both picking Barber there. I think this might be your favourite fight on the card, Josh. Your boy Manel Cape.
Well, actually, sorry. The main event is my favourite, but you're right when you said this one should be co-main.
Yeah, and he's taking on Alex Perez. We have not seen. It feels like we haven't seen Alex Perez in a while. Obviously, he had that title fight loss that he probably didn't deserve against Figgy, and then he was out for ages, like a really long time. And has he had a fight since then? I feel he fought somebody and it didn't go well for him. But I might be wrong on that. Let me just look this up quickly.
Yeah, there was the Pantoja fight. But the big thing with him is just fight cancellations. Whether he pulls out, they pull out. But, you know, he's always getting booked against great names. And you know what? Name and fortune right now. Manel, get carp, wear carp, fly.
That
Solid.
makes absolutely no sense. But yes, I'm also picking Manel Karp to win this fight.
I think that'd be a great nickname.
The guy's found his form, man. Took him a couple of fights to realize that the first round matters in the UFC.
Yeah, you and Sly used to tease me about this so much. This is my guy. Man.
And he's fighting an opponent that it's not just that it's 2 losses on the bounce, but his entire 2021, dude, was cancelled fights. He only had 1 fight in 2022 and it was a loss. Lost his last fight in 2020. And then you've got to fight this guy that's so sharp on the feet, that's been fighting regularly. That's a really tough ask. And I feel with Perez, he kind of had this very quick rise up the division before the division was really established with some of the names it's got now. So I think when you factor that in, this is Karp all day for me.
He has got some good wins, though. Jose Torres, alright. Mike De La Rosa's okay. Same with Espinosa, but Jussier Formiga's decent.
He fought Formiga on the way out, though, dude.
Yes, but then also, like, looking at the losses, it's Joby Wan Kenobi, Figgy, and Pantoja. Like, is championship level fighters. I know that he has been finished by all of them in the first round, and I'm not picking him in this fight. But I'm just saying he's not that bad. He's decent. You're right. The title shot was not necessarily well earned and deserved. It was just, you know, circumstantial. But fuck it, he's a good fighter. This is a horrible fight for him, and I think get cart where cart fly is going to knock him the fuck out.
For me, listen, if this was Alex Perez with 2 wins in the bounce, having fought regularly at 100%, mentally switched on, this is a fight that I think he'd have a chance of winning. Asking the guy to come in when you haven't tasted a win in 3 years, and all the injuries, and all the setbacks, and then you've got to fight Manel Karp. It's a lot to ask of a guy. It's a lot to ask of any fighter. I think Karp's going to win it. One more fight on the main card, and then we'll run through the prelims a bit more quickly. Albert Duraev is back after the not-so-good fight against Joaquin Buckley, taking on Chidi Njokwani, who was looking great, but then came a little unstuck in his last fight. Who did he fight? Got a feeling it was Dusko Todorovic. No, Gregory Rodriguez. He beat Dusko Todorovic. I don't think there's any disrespect in losing to Gregory Rodriguez. And he had Rodriguez fucked up in that fight. That was one of Rodriguez's signature coming back from the dead performances.
Yes, kind of what happens.
I like Chidi. He's one of these guys that did really well on the regional scene at a point when he'd already lost just a few too many fights and was a little too old to grab any attention from some of the bigger promotions when he was younger. But I think he's a good, at least top 20 level middleweight, and I think he fucks Albert Duraev up.
Yeah, I mean, the Duraev fight, the loss, you know, it was a doctor's stoppage in the end. So there's always that kind of what if kind of factor, but I'm going bang bang as well. I think this is another really good fucking fight. I don't think there's any bad fights in this card. I really can't hype this card up enough.
It's a really good main card. Really, really good. I'm completely with you, man. I think there's so many fights that are just so much fun. And we move on to the prelims. Right, we'll run through these a bit more quickly. Daniel Pineda taking on Tucker Lutz. Who have you got on this one, Josh?
Lots.
I'm also going Lutz. Stephen Pearson taking on Lucas Alexander. I'll go first on this one. I've got Stephen Peterson.
Yep, same. Love the chest tattoo. Peterson for me.
Welterweight Trevin Giles taking on Preston Parsons. This is a fucking hard one to call. I'm going Parsons. I'm not sure about Giles at welterweight.
You know what? I was kind of like edging towards Parsons, but I'm going to change up to Giles. I think I want more separation here.
I understand that. Flyweight, and we've got CJ Vergara taking on Daniel De Silva. Your turn to go first.
Vergara, easy.
Yeah, same for me, man. He's had some losses in the UFC, but he's always really good in his fights, and they've made him fight some fucking tough people, dude. Really tough people. Lightweight, Manuel Torres taking on Trey Ogden, and I am going Manuel Torres.
Snap. Torres too.
Flyweight again, Victor Altamirano taking on Vinicius Salvador. Josh, your turn to go first.
Salvador.
I will break away from you and go Victor Altamirano.
And then do you want to do the last one at the same time?
We can try. We'll do a countdown. 3, 2, 1. So, wait. First fight on the card. Last fight of the pick. I hate you. I didn't do the countdown. I'm taking Haley Cohen anyway, so you got lots of separation there.
Nice. If that means lots of draws this week, I'm going to be livid.
Yeah, or one of us does very badly. Usually we end up going about 50-50 anyway, when there's loads of difference between us. But we will find out. Those are our picks for the upcoming card, UFC San Antonio. Like the content if you're enjoying it. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Leave comments. Leave your own picks and predictions. We get maybe the prelims is a bit heavy, but tell us who you think takes this main event. Tell us who you think wins on the main card. We'd love to hear from you guys. That out of the way, we'll wish you a good rest of your week. Enjoy the fights. Bye, Dave. Bye, Laurie. Bye, Trifo.
Bye, Laurie. Bye, Dave.